freaking loud. The voice is overpowering. Also, the Monday night meeting that Riley does is up and going. We have like 5 or 6 people going regularly. It's still over at the other church. If you're on Facebook or anything, I post the flyers, and the flyers are back there. And I also made a Thanksgiving sign-up sheet for food. So that way I'll do a turkey, but that way we're not bringing like 3 turkeys and 3 hams and all the different things. Do I need a turkey? No. There's also a thing back there, which all the places that are going to be giving out free turkeys this next week for people who need them. Salvation Army gives them out, Real Life Church. I think Frontline gives that stuff out. So anybody who's in need, there's definitely resources out there.
Friendship dinner? Yep.
Yeah, it's right here. I brought flyers to that too, but I noticed that someone else already put them back there. So, yeah. So I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with pride these days. And my name is Matt. But because of this lesson and what this lesson's about, I do not struggle with drugs and alcohol anymore. God has lifted that from me, and I haven't even thought about it in a very long time. Tonight's lesson is yes. Principle 8, yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and by my words. Happy are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. Matthew 5:10. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore that person gently. But watch yourself, or you also might be tempted. So tonight's lesson is on recycling, is what they say here, but it's on giving back. Recycling your pain and allowing God's fire and light to shine on it, to melt down your old hurts and habits and hang-ups, so that they may be used again in a positive way. They can be recycled to show others how you have worked these principles and steps with Jesus, and the healing that you have come to know. So this lesson. This is what I'm passionate about. This lesson. It's saying yes to things, and I say yes to too much most of the time. But I used to say no to everything. Like I used to say. I remember the first time I came to a Celebrate Recovery was years ago, and I was terrified even sitting in the small groups. I hated talking. I hated it, and then I started doing groups at my work, and then now I was scared to death of this, and I'm still a little bit scared of it, but I said yes, and I just went with it. And there was a point in my life where I just realized that I had to say yes to everything and stop saying no for God to use me. Celebrate Recovery allows us to recycle our pain. God likes to use our pain and use it for good. And like Mike always says, everyone else throws broken things away, but God does not. When I went down to Bethel Church this last winter and I was getting prophetic words over me, one of the things they wrote on this was, "It's my joy to say yes," and it was a bookmark for me. And at the time, I was beginning to say yes, but I didn't really know how much that was going to mean later on. But and I had some powerful messages down there when I was there. So 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, God of all comfort, who comforts us in all afflictions, so that we may be able to comfort those in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. So use that comfort that you get from God. That is actually tattooed. I do this all the time. That is right here in Greek, because when I read that was like, I thought that verse was my whole job in the Bible verse. Like that was what the rest of my life was meant to be, was right there. So use your comfort. Like feel that love that we feel from God, the healing that we have. Like use that to help others. It is the most rewarding thing in the world to give back and to be of service. My whole entire life is about service. And there's so many people out there who do not know Jesus. They do not know about programs like these. And we need to be out there. We need to be loud. We need to be showing up. We need to go to these things, and we need to invite people here. People need to know Jesus Christ so they can feel what real recovery is like. Tonight's acrostic couldn't be any more positive. The acrostic is yes. The Y is for yield myself to God. The E is for example. Be an example is what is important. And the S is for serve others as Jesus did. So the Y in this principle is yield myself to God to be used and to bring this good news to others, both by my example and by my words. So to practice that principle and what it says right there, we have to get out of the way, because a lot of us want to be used, but it has to be under our terms, like how we want to, like he always says, like people don't want to clean the toilets for the glory of God, but someone has to do it. People don't want to. I mean, a lot of people cook, but like we could have a lot more people cooking. So everything we have comes from God. Every single gift we have, every talent, everything that makes us comes from God. So we need to use that to bless others. We need to be that example for others. We need to. We just need to be of service. Like being of service is like my life's pleasure or my life's joy. Galatians 6:1-2 says, if a Christian is overcome by some sin, humbly help him back onto the right path, remembering that the next time it might be one of you who is wrong. Share each other's troubles and problems, so obey the Lord's command. People take your example far more seriously than your word. People don't want to, I mean, all of us, I was an addict for a very long time, and when I first got sober, I expected everyone to just give me unlimited amounts of credit. I thought that they should be praising the ground I walk on and giving me affirmations every turn I take, but I didn't get any of that. Like my wife she's been dealing with me for this for years. My mom, she was there for 20 years of my addiction, and none of them wanted to hear it. I had to show them that time. Yes. And it took a long time to accept that. I was sober for a long time before I started actually letting God use me. I was sober the wrong way because I was in the wrong programs, and I just wasn't heeding my call. Yes. That leads us to the E, which is which is our example is what is important. Your walk needs to match your talk. That's just what I'm saying. Like how are you guys acting outside here? How do you guys show up to church and then go out there and flip people off in traffic? I honestly don't do that anymore. Like I mean, every once in a while I'll get mad and I'll almost turn around, but then it immediately gets in my head that's old Matt. But I mean, so there was a long time that I was giving, and giving, but I was making sure I was giving in a way that I was getting recognized for it. And then I read one of those, it's in Matthew somewhere, where he's talking about don't be one of the sitting on the corners praying and making sure everyone sees what you do. And since then, I started doing that in secret, but it's the same thing with our example. Like, we need to be that example all the time for everyone. There is newcomers in here right now that could use some lifting up if you guys would just say hello, or you would just introduce yourselves and share your story. If you want someone to see what Christ is doing, what will do for them, let them see what Christ has done for you. Even if you've only been sober 2 months, you have a testimony to share, because that's 2 months that you were sober. Yeah. I mean, those are like the hardest 2 months of your life. I mean, 6 months is the same thing. I didn't even have it figured out for a long time, but someone who's at day one needs to hear how you got to 2 months. Yeah, and then you need to share what God is doing in your life. Here's a question to ask yourself when you get into this principle. Does my lifestyle reflect what I believe? In other words, does it show others the patterns of this world? Selfishness, pride, and lust? Or does it reflect the love, humility, and service of Jesus Christ? This is something I have to remind, I battle with this all the time, because I will find myself being super prideful, and I'll start like gossiping and talking crap about someone, and then I have to come back here all the time. It's like it's constant nonstop battle with myself, especially at my place of employment. Like I have unlimited compassion for the people I work, the people I serve. Don't have any compassion for people I work with, and I have to remind myself: how would Jesus feel about how would he treat them? I need to show unlimited love to everyone, not just the people I serve. So, arouse the love that comes from pure heart, a clear conscience, and a genuine faith. 1 Timothy 1:5. We have a lot of people here who are already serving. We have a lot of people that come and help with food. We have a bunch of leaders that they give coins or the child care. To me that's the hardest thing of all. God bless everyone who is helping with children, because that is not a gift that I have. But the greeting is, so the newcomers come in and someone's actually introducing themselves to them, so they're not just going and sitting in there and feeling out of place. Testimonies is a huge part of service. Like, we need to share. If you have passed a step study, we need to share what God is doing in your life. How is your life better than when you came in to celebrate recovery? Serving shows that it's not just about sobriety, it's more about recovery. Sobriety and recovery are two different things. There are a lot of people out there sober. There's a lot of people out there sober, and they hate their life. I was out there sober, and I hated my life for a long, long time. And it was because I was not helping others. They say it in AA, you cannot keep it unless you give it away. There is no truer statement than that when it comes to recovery. You cannot just keep what God's given you and all that love and everything and expect to. In the end, you're going to self-destruct and you're going to go back to old behaviors. God gives each of us different talents, and we need to learn to use them for God's glory by serving. I kind of said that earlier. And then again, how much have we all taken? Like, how much? I was a taker. I take and take and take and take, whether it was stealing from my family or from stores or anybody. I would use anybody for anything to get what I needed all day long. And I guarantee that most of you were just like that. We have a living amends to make to this world. It's not just to the people that we wrong. Like this town, there's a reason I stay in Wasilla, Alaska. It's because I consider owing this town a living amends for all the crap that I have caused, all the people I've hurt, all the drugs that I've given, and all the drugs that I've taken. Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others faithfully, administering God's grace in its various forms. 1 Peter 4:10. You cannot keep it unless you give it away. That's why it's so important to share your victories. That's why it's important to sit in the small groups and talk about what God is doing in your life. It's important to bump into the guy out at the grocery store and tell him, like, what's going on in your life. How has God and becoming to know Jesus Christ changed your life for the better? The last letter in yes is serve others as Christ did. When you have reached principle 8, you are ready to pick up the Lord's towel, the one with which he washed the disciples' feet in the upper room the night before he was crucified. Jesus said, "And since I, the Lord teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash others' feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you." John 13:14 through 15. They washed feet. Was it like 3 weeks ago here? And it's a symbol. But all those girls had like really nice, clean feet. They went and got their pedicures done. When Jesus was washing their feet were filthy and sweaty and dusty, and they've been walking through God knows what all day long, and he sat there and washed their feet. Probably had to change the water multiple times to even get it done. If Jesus can wash his dirty disciples' feet, that is our example. We need to serve others how Jesus served the whole entire world. If you don't, so it's back into service here. It says you do not have to give your testimony in front of, it says 300 people, but you don't have to give your testimony in front of 50 people to be of service. All service ranks the same with God. You can say yes to principle 8 in many ways. You may feel like you're not ready to give back yet. Maybe you are that guy with 1 week sober and you feel it, or maybe you have 2 months sober, but you don't feel that you could be of service to anyone. But that is absolutely not true. Even if you aren't willing to help someone with their recovery, you can help out here. You can help out at your church. We always need people to help clean at the end of the night. It lets me get home way earlier if we have like 10 people here. But you could be an accountability partner. You could be an accountability partner with someone who is 10 days sober with you, and you guys just decide you want to be sober together and you're going to check in. You can help cook. You can help clean. You can help with anything around here. Because God, or we, it's a very small team, and this team needs to grow. And that's also why the step study, she says, like, you know, you got to be ready. I think a lot of you guys should just jump in and just go for it. Because if you sit back and you're just waiting and sitting on the sidelines, you might miss the biggest blessing that you could ever possibly get in life. So I encourage a lot of you to show up. And we need a lot more leaders. We need more sponsors. We need more people to help out around here. Also, when you're sharing in those small groups and you're talking about all the blessings that you have. I mean, like for me, like I can say that I got my family back. I've been sober for 5-6 years. I have a job in recovery. Like these are all huge blessings. And when someone new hears that, that might be exactly what they want. They might want their family. That might be the whole reason they came here. Because God knows when I came to Celebrate Recovery the first time, that's why. Because I wanted my family back. I wanted to get it wasn't even get my life back, because I didn't have a life worth getting back. I came so I could start a new life. I just didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was going to half-ass it. And until my wife would let me back in or whatever, and then I'd just go back to the way I was. But little did I know, that wasn't the plan God had for me. Not at all. He knew that I was going to get sucked in, because that's it. And I would... It happens to me every single place I am. I get sucked into helping. But he knew that was going to happen, and that's what's meant to happen. I'm supposed to get sucked in. Become
I'm thanking you for that, by the way.
Galatians 5:13 through 14, my brothers and sisters, we were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love yourself as your neighbor. God has freed us. He's freed us from our addictions. He's at least made you, if you're still struggling with addiction, you're at least here. He's pushed you to the right place so you can become free of your addictions, or your habits, or your hang-ups, or codependency, or all that. But let's use that freedom to help others. I said a long time ago we need a movement for recovery, and I think it's happening.
Yeah.
I think that recovery is louder than it's ever been, and it's so much more is happening right now than it's ever happened in this town.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to keep getting more and more, and we're going to keep growing more and more.
Amen.
The world is full of two kinds of people: givers and takers. The takers eat well, and the givers sleep well. Be a giver. There are many more areas to serve. It just says make suggestions, get involved. Principle 8 comes down to this: do what you can with what you have where you are. Well, you guys are right here, and you're in Celebrate Recovery, so do what you can. No joy can equal the joy of serving. I used to be the most selfish person in the world. I used to just, everything for me was about getting drugs and alcohol. Everything in the end. I didn't care about my kid. I cared about my kids, but I definitely picked heroin over my kids many times. Serving it's actually a gift. It's one of the, I'm sure some of you heard me say this before, but God made it backwards. When you help someone else, it helps you more. That's one of those things that doesn't make sense in the laws of nature, but He made it that way. So that way, when you help someone, you're blessed just as much, and you won't know until you start helping someone.
Amen.
You won't know until you start serving.
Yes.
I have gone so much further in my recovery by teaching people how to work steps than I ever did working steps. I've gone so much farther by reaching my hand out and giving and all these things that I never did than I ever would if I wasn't pushed, and I didn't feel that push from God all the time to do so. I feel Him telling me to help all the time. My problem is I don't have enough time in the day. That's just that's the truth. And I have a wife that gets mad because I'm already doing so much. But if I could, I would be at everything every single day because that's what I love. So yield everything. So the S is for yield everything to God. Give your best to Him. Give your all to Him. Don't just give Him your scraps. Lead by example. Be that shining light. Be the person who reaches out the hand to the person nobody else wants to talk to. And serve. Talks here about you get to a point where there's a fork in the road and you have to pick. And it says you're either going to go sponsors and leaders to Celebrate Recovery or to other ministries in the church. But I really feel that you can do both. You should be involved in the church and you should be involved in CR. We're moving here and we need people at church just as bad as we need people here, and we need people helping. We need to share our experiences, strengths, and hopes with newcomers. You do this as leaders, sponsors, and accountability partners, but the church also needs your service. As you serve outside Celebrate Recovery, you can share with others and get them into recovery when they are ready to work on their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Every morning before I get out of bed, I pray this Principle 8 prayer. Dear Jesus, as it would please you, bring me someone today with whom I can serve. So who will you pray? Who will you pray this week? I start every day like that. Every day I try to give up my will to. One of my assignments a long time ago was to wake up and pray every morning, and the way I do it is I check the stocks first thing when I wake up, and I won't allow myself to look at the stocks without getting on my knees.
Amen.
And every day I try to give my will up because I know that my will is so strong that by the time I get in the car, it's right back every single day. And I have to just continually give it up. And there was another thing that happened a while back with someone at work, and I was praying like 50 times a day, take this from me, Lord, because I am not strong enough. And you say that you'll cast all our troubles on Him. And I swear it really does work when you do it all the time.
Yes.
So, be of service, get involved. This is almost the end. We're almost at the end. We have one more lesson, and we're going to start all over. But take a chance, get in a step study, be involved, fix your life.
Hey, thank you, man.